Basketball got Michael Jordan. Music got Michael Jackson. Boxing got Mike Tyson. And Bitcoin, we got Michael Saylor. But what do they have in common other than the name Michael? Well, they didn't just play the game, they changed it, becoming absolute legends in their fields. And why is Michael Saylor a legend in the crypto industry? He and his company MicroStrategy have purchased over 300,000 Bitcoins over the past 4 years. 331,200 to be exact. So who is Michael Saylor? What is MicroStrategy? And how did they purchase this many Bitcoins in such a short period of time, making them one of the largest BTC holders in the world? Well, the team and I did all the research, so this should be the only video you need to get all the answers and know everything there is to know about Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy. Trust me, you do not want to miss this. My name's Karim, and this is the Crypto Code by ICN Talks, where we talk about some of the biggest gems and opportunities in our industry. Bitcoin is breaking all-time highs, but what's really important here is that there are so many ways to invest in projects and companies around Bitcoin where you can also experience incredible returns. And if you're a business owner, this video will get you thinking about whether or not you should be holding cash or Bitcoin in your company's balance sheet. Every business has the same goal, to essentially create value for shareholders. But historically, this has been done in two ways, by either increasing revenue or decreasing costs. And if you're a great business, you do both. MicroStrategy has introduced a third opportunity where companies can rethink ways to structure their balance sheet by replacing cash reserves with incredibly high-performing assets like Bitcoin. So how has this strategy been working for MicroStrategy? Well, during our research, we found a live chart that tracked every Bitcoin purchase ever made by the company. Let's pull it up. Fantastic. So let's get started. There's a website called SaylorTracker.com, and it is amazing. It's showing you live what Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy have been doing and tracking their Bitcoin purchases. So if we'll scroll all the way down, I want to start off with the first purchase they ever made. If you go down, you'll see August 11th, 2020 was the first purchase they ever made. They bought 21,000 Bitcoins for $250 million. Then you'll see September 14, and you'll see every single purchase ever made. And I counted them. So far, there've been 45 purchases. All of them are purchases except for one. There has been one sale here on December 22nd, 2022, where they sold 704 Bitcoin for $11.8 million. This marks the first ever sale. I think it's the only sale as well. And the primary reason for the sale was to realize a tax benefit, apparently. By selling these Bitcoins at a loss, the company aimed to offset previous capital gains, thereby reducing its overall tax liability. And then if we scroll up to the top and see the latest purchase, they recently purchased, on November 18th of this year, they purchased $4.6 billion worth of Bitcoin. They bought 51,780 Bitcoin to be exact. And if you go to the top here, what I love to see is you'll see the dollar cost average cost. So they spent $50,000 on average per Bitcoin. And the price right now of Bitcoin is $98,000. Will it hit $100,000 today? We shall soon find out. Let's get back to the video. So let's recap all the numbers we just saw. As of November 2024, MicroStrategy owns 331,200 Bitcoin, or 1.7% of BTC's total supply. That is incredible. Their total investment, around $16.5 billion. The average price they paid per Bitcoin, $50,000. With Bitcoin's price currently hovering around $99,000 per coin, their holding is now worth around $32 billion. So let's dive into the incredible story of Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, a CEO in a company that shocked the financial world by going all in on Bitcoin. With over $16 billion invested, MicroStrategy owns more Bitcoin than most central banks. And with Bitcoin's market valuation approaching $2 trillion, their bet might just be paying off. But how did they pull this off? What is their end game? And will this audacious gamble secure their place in history? Or will this go down as one of the riskiest corporate bets ever made? By the end of this video, you'll get all the answers. It'll also get you thinking in a new way about Bitcoin, risk-taking, and corporate finance. Michael Saylor, a systems engineer from MIT, founded MicroStrategy over 2 decades ago, making him one of the longest-serving CEOs in the tech industry. MicroStrategy was created in 1989, and the company specializes in business intelligence solutions that gives business managers the tools they need to make decisions to maximize productivity. Following the market crash of 1999, however, Microsoft's stock struggled to recover until Saylor pivoted the company in 2020 to focus entirely on Bitcoin. That's when he made the polarizing decision to purchase 21,000 Bitcoins for $250 million. Initially, this decision appeared risky when in 2022, Bitcoin entered a bear market and the company found itself $5 billion in unrealized losses. Yet Saylor remained unfazed, famously stating that he'd be buying the top forever. His approach was straightforward. The company began using its own cash reserves to purchase Bitcoin, holding it on the balance sheet with no intention of selling. The idea was to use Bitcoin as the company's primary reserve asset, primarily as a hedge against inflation. And to accelerate their strategy, they issued new shares, effectively diluting the stock but acquiring acquiring Bitcoin, a stronger and historically better performing asset in return. While such a massive dilution would typically send the company's stock plummeting, MicroStrategy's stock rose following the announcement, showcasing the market's faith in Saylor's bold Bitcoin-centric strategy. In fact, MicroStrategy's stock MSTR is heavily correlated with Bitcoin's price and is essentially a leveraged bet on Bitcoin. The stock has significantly outperformed the S&P 500 since 2020, with shares soaring 1,989% over this period. And on top of that, the stock has surged 500% this year alone, outperforming Bitcoin itself and Nvidia as well. MicroStrategy isn't just betting on Bitcoin, it's redefining itself around it. The software business, once the company's core, is now secondary to their Bitcoin strategy. And to further increase their holdings, Saylor took on large-scale loans at extremely low interest rates to acquire even more Bitcoin. When the market eventually rebounded, MicroStrategy's Bitcoin holdings surged, resulting in a profit over $16 billion. Saylor's use of leverage has been a game changer, enabling the company to gain over 20% more Bitcoin on behalf of shareholders. Michael Saylor is essentially transforming MicroStrategy into a Bitcoin bank, aiming to leverage the company's substantial Bitcoin holding to offer financial services such as Bitcoin-backed loans and custody solutions. He is actively encouraging other corporations, including Microsoft and even governments, to adopt similar Bitcoin-centric strategies. But how do they buy so much Bitcoin? This is the fascinating part. MicroStrategy didn't just use their cash reserves to buy Bitcoin. They got very creative with financial engineering in three main ways. Number one, convertible notes. On June 20th of this year, MicroStrategy raised $800 million through convertible notes, which are a type of short-form debt that converts into equity in the future. The low interest rates, in this case 2.25% convertible notes due in 2032, made these instruments an attractive way to fund their Bitcoin purchases, and in this case, they purchased 11,931 BTC for $786 million from this offering. And number two, equity sales. Recently, in September of this year, the company sold over 8 million new shares to purchase another 18,300 BTC, worth $1.1 billion at the time of the purchase. And number three, Bitcoin-backed loans. MicroStrategy also used their Bitcoin holdings as collateral to secure loans, like the $205 million loan they took from Silvergate Bank in 2022 to buy more BTC. Saylor isn't just holding Bitcoin, he's buying more Bitcoin with leverage because he is convinced that the price of Bitcoin is just going to go up, and so far he's been right. But fun fact, during a recent shareholder meeting, the company announced that as of September 30th of this year, 100% of their total Bitcoin holdings became unencumbered, essentially paid off, giving them full access to 100% of their BTC. This doesn't mean that they won't use leverage again, but it's interesting to note that they managed to pay that loan off recently. Michael Saylor has been all over the news recently because on the 30th of October, he announced plans to raise $42 billion over the next 2 years to buy more Bitcoin, split between $21 billion in share dilution and $21 billion in bonds and loans, aka the 21-21 plan. Interesting choice of numbers, sir. The plan will officially mark the transformation of MicroStrategy into becoming the world's first Bitcoin treasury company, or BTC for short. Yes, I'm bullish. That would mean that they would purchase another 420,000 BTCs. Talk about true conviction. What's also fascinating is that the $21 billion equity raised through issuing of new shares will be the largest ever done by a public company in the history of capital markets. Again, in any other circumstance, this type and scale of issuance of new shares would destroy a company's share price. But MSTR shareholders are a different breed and are excited about the news. They understand the vision and stand behind MicroStrategy's strategy to buy more Bitcoin. So wait a minute, why is Saylor doing this? Well, his Bitcoin strategy is rooted in three key beliefs. Number one, Bitcoin is digital gold. Saylor believes Bitcoin is a superior alternative to gold. With Bitcoin's current market cap at almost $2 trillion compared to gold's $13 trillion, Saylor argues that Bitcoin still has a massive potential to grow. He predicts Bitcoin will one day surpass gold, potentially driving its price to $500,000 or even $1 million by 2030. Number two, as an inflation hedge. With central banks worldwide printing money at unprecedented rates, Saylor views Bitcoin as a hedge against the devaluation of fiat currencies. He famously called cash a melting ice cube and believes Bitcoin is the only asset that offers true monetary security. And number three, network effect. Bitcoin adoption is accelerating globally, with millions of new wallets being created and institutions entering the market every day. Saylor compares this to the early days of the internet, calling Bitcoin the foundation of a new financial system. So for Bitcoin enthusiasts, MicroStrategy has become a symbol of institutional adoption, and Saylor has emerged as one of the most influential voices in the crypto world. And you know what's fascinating? Michael Saylor isn't stopping at leading MicroStrategy's Bitcoin strategy. He's on a mission to convince some of the world's largest tech companies to follow suit. During a November 19 event hosted hosted by Van Eck, Saylor announced that he would be presenting a Bitcoin investment proposal to Microsoft's board of directors. This 3-minute pitch aims to outline how a Bitcoin-based treasury strategy could help Microsoft generate as much as $1 trillion in value. The timing is critical. Microsoft shareholders are set to vote on December 10th on a proposal to consider Bitcoin as part of the company's balance sheet. Major institutional shareholders, including Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street, and Fidelity, will play key roles in shaping this decision. Saylor's approach reflects a broader movement in corporate finance where Bitcoin is being discussed as a superior alternative to traditional cash reserves. He's extended his advocacy to other tech giants, including Apple and Google, where they could potentially reap massive rewards and benefits by allocating a portion of their cash reserves to Bitcoin. Saylor has even argued that if Apple invested $100 billion into Bitcoin, it could probably be worth $500 billion over time. So, as you can see, Saylor's vision extends far beyond MicroStrategy. His aim is to transform the way corporations manage their treasuries, championing Bitcoin as a long-term growth strategy for businesses with substantial cash reserves. So love him or hate him, there are valuable lessons we can learn from Michael Saylor. Number one, think long-term. Saylor's vision extends far beyond quarterly earnings. He's focused on the next decade and beyond. Number two, conviction is key. Whether Bitcoin succeeds or fails, Saylor's unwavering belief in his strategy has positioned himself as a leader in the space. And number three, take calculated risks. While Saylor's strategy is risky, it's often deeply calculated, and his use of leverage and financial instruments show just how sophisticated his understanding is of capital markets and inflation. This guy is an absolute legend. Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy are a fascinating case study in conviction, risk-taking, and the power of transformative technology. But of course, not everyone shares Saylor's optimism, and there are a few concerns. I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't, share some of those with you. The first is that Bitcoin's price is notoriously volatile, right? So for example, in 2022, Bitcoin lost over 60% of its value, wiping out billions from MicroStrategy's balance sheet. Also, there has been a recent red flag in May this year when MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor reportedly made the largest income tax fraud settlement of $40 million in the history of the District of Columbia. They allegedly haven't paid any income taxes over the past 10 years. Some other issues could be that Saylor didn't really think that Bitcoin ETFs would ever be approved by the SEC, but he was wrong about that. So what do I think? Well, I'm excited to see how this all plays out. If MicroStrategy is successful in implementing its 21-21 plan, and they do manage to purchase another $42 billion worth of Bitcoin, then this is extremely bullish for Bitcoin's price over the next 2 years. Retail investors tend to follow where the smart money goes. And if they see success in MicroStrategy's plan, then we can expect more retail investors buying BTC. And on top of that, this will also be very bullish for MSTR's price, which allow MicroStrategy to buy more Bitcoin. So as an investor, should I invest in MicroStrategy or should I just buy Bitcoin myself? Well, there are pros and cons. On one hand, if I buy Bitcoin, all I'm getting is the return of Bitcoin. If it goes up 30%, I make 30%. But the opportunity of buying MicroStrategy is that I'll basically get a levered bet on Bitcoin. There's this idea of Bitcoin yield, where let's say my 10 shares of MSTR is equal to 1 BTC, and MicroStrategy continues to buy Bitcoin in a way that it does. Then, in the future, my 10 shares of MSTR could equal 1.3 BTC as an example. But the downside here is that I need to be cautious of the premium that MSTR is currently trading at. So the company does have $32 billion of Bitcoin on the balance sheet, but the market cap today is $80 billion. So that's a $50 billion premium that I need to watch and pay close attention to. It's normal for high growth companies to trade at a premium, but I need to monitor that premium moving forward to make sure I'm not overpaying for the stock. I always intend to own as much Bitcoin as I can myself, but I also am keen to invest up to 5% into MSTR because I love what they're doing and I want to be part of the story and I want to see how it plays out. So what do you think? Will Saylor's Bitcoin strategy make MicroStrategy one of the most valuable companies in the world? Or will this gamble go down as one of the most spectacular failures in corporate history? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this deep dive and made it this far in the video, thank you so much. Please share, like, and subscribe to the channel. I will be following up on the 21-21 plan to make sure you are subscribed so you can stay up to date. Guys, we launched our flagship ecosystem product, ICN.live. It's a brand new and fresh Web3 news platform where you can find articles in gaming, AI, blockchain, and of course, Bitcoin. And if you are interested in receiving great insights and market updates straight to your email, don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter. You can find all the links in the description below. See you next week.